What's up, everybody? Superworks fan here for another weekly update in the Mustang GT. So, if you guys have been living under a rock this week, then maybe you haven't heard, but I'm sure most of you heard about the refreshed 2018 Mustang and watched my video already earlier this week on all my thoughts on the 2018 Mustang. And so, yeah, you know, now a few days after the reveal, it's really growing on me a lot more. I don't want one. I have no plans to buy one. But it's not bad. I still prefer mine. You know, I still like the color that mine comes in. There aren't any colors that I'm crazy about. There are some very beautiful colors that the 2018s are offered in, and there's other beautiful colors for 2015 to 2017 Mustangs. But for me in particular, and what I want a dark green Mustang, and that is not an option currently for the 2018s. I'm still keeping my fingers crossed for a Bullet Edition, possibly to be released, you know, sometime later here this year, most likely. But even the standard 2018 Mustangs aren't going to be available, they're saying, until fall. And so, you know, that really reaffirms my decision last year to not wait around for a 2018, because I wasn't sure if I was going to like it, and I didn't want to keep waiting indefinitely and, you know, always just anticipating the next big thing. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to live in the now. I'm going to get the car I want to get. This was the perfect one, and I grabbed it, and now I'm glad that I did, because, you know, I mean, we'll have to wait and see what the 7th gen does, but if there is no 2018 Mustang Bullet, and I'm not at all interested in the 7th gen Mustang that's coming out in 2020 as a 2021 model year. You know, I mean, they're saying that there will almost certainly still be a V8 option. Who knows if it'll be naturally aspirated though, or, you know, if it's going to be downsized or what. This could very well be the Mustang I keep the rest of my life. And I said that even when I first bought it back in June of last year, but now even more so, you know, just the way things are changing, you know, them announcing a hybrid Mustang for 2020 and all this stuff, you know, it's becoming like there's the Mustang's large V8 days are, you know, limited. I think I don't think it's going to be, you know, discontinued tomorrow or even in 5 years. It might be more like 10 years or something. But I think that, you know, the writing's on the wall here, you know, with the way things are going, that, you know, it's only a matter of time. And I absolutely love this. You know, they don't offer dark green on Mustangs very often. They didn't for decades, really. And so this is, you know, one of the first times, so I'm glad that I grabbed it when I did. The 2018s don't have the hood vent turn signals that I really love on mine, and all those other little details that I'm sure, you know, obviously I could repaint one. I could just add aftermarket turn signals in the vents, and I mean, I could make one like mine if I wanted to modify it and stuff, but it's just so much trouble. I'd rather just have it from the factory exactly the way I like it. And really the only thing from the 2018s that I'm really jealous of is the active exhaust, because that's one thing, you know, I do love the stock exhaust on this, and I plan to keep the stock exhaust most likely. I'm kicking around the idea of doing a resonator delete, but, you know, I'm most likely going to just keep the stock exhaust, but it would be nice, you know, every once in a while when I'm in the mood to open it up and, you know, make it a little bit louder. And so, you know, but that's just one of those wish list things. And again, I could go to the trouble of doing like the Roush active exhaust if I really wanted to, but that's a quad tip, which would mean I have to change the rear valance to a Roush rear valance and then wire up the switch and all that kind of stuff. And so before labor costs, it would be over $2,000 just for that. And it's like, I would like to have that feature, but not that badly. And if I'm going to spend over $2,000 for aftermarket parts that I'll never get half the money back for, I'd rather just upgrade to a 2018, get the newer technology, and have a car that has it from the factory, so that it actually adds some value to the car instead of, you know, just being something that most likely detracts from the value of it. So yes, so those are some more follow-up thoughts here on the 2018s. And so because I've decided now that I'm going to be keeping this, at least unless there is some surprise Bullet announcement sometime this year, I do want to do a couple small things to it. I'll most likely wait till the spring, because the car looks like crap all winter anyway. There's no point in adding parts over the winter time here, but in the spring I would like to do a couple small things. So one of the things that I'm still kicking around though that I really do want to do, but I'm not sure about the downsides of it, are the quarter window louvers. I love the way quarter window louvers look. I really like some of the options out here for the, you know, 2016s, 2015s, whatever. And so the only problem with that is I've been mentally taking notes of every time that I look over my shoulder and look out that quarter window. And there are a lot of times where it really comes in handy, whether it's in parking lots or intersections where there's sharp angles or curves and you have to look out that back window. And I don't want to look out that back window and see tiny little slits that are hardly even discernible. And so that's, you know, my holdup right now with the quarter window louvers. But it's still a possibility because they just look so good from the outside to me, and it's exactly the look I want, you know, the classic look for Mustangs. And so I'm still considering that, still considering lowering springs at some point as well. You know, but honestly, now this is going to sound so boring, I know, but I'm so content with this car the way it is, and I'm even content with it just stock. I just really like it. Ford did a great job from the factory, and so as boring as it may sound, I will most likely just drive this and enjoy it, and, you know, not do any additional mods to it. And you know, I'm doing that also because of greater goals. You know, like, instead of dumping thousands of dollars into this car, I would rather start saving those thousands of dollars for a house with more garage space so that I can add an actual 68 Bullet to you know, the garage eventually, other classic cars, eventually an F-Type, you know, all these goals that I have. You know, I still want an F-Type, but it would just be adding cars onto this instead of just swapping cars every year or every 2 years like a lot of other people do. I just want to add to my car collection and actually build up a car collection instead of, you know, having 1 or 2 cars. I want to have 5 or 10 cars eventually, you know, so that's kind of my goals. And so leaving this as it is and then just working on the next car and the next place to put the cars and stuff is the goal that I would rather go for. And I know that's not as exciting. You guys would rather see me do some crazy build on this and turn it into, you know, something that looks like a Ken Block, you know, Gymkhana car or something. But unfortunately, it's just for something that I daily drive and live with, you know, and it just doesn't make sense for me to do any kind of crazy build, at least for my personal happiness. Other people enjoy that. They love, you know, going crazy, and that's fine. You know, everyone likes different things, but for me personally, I just like enjoying this the way it is, driving it, and that's it. So yes, that's all the stuff really on my mind here recently. One cool thing though, if you're going to be following me on Instagram and all the other social media stuff, this weekend I'm going to be going to the Barrett-Jackson auction in Scottsdale, Arizona, thanks to Shell and Pennzoil who are sending me out there. I'm going to be doing a sponsored video as part of that, but I'll also be doing a couple other videos, possibly a vlog. A long time ago, those who have been watching the channel for a while, remember I did a video at my local auto auction and kind of, you know, some of the ins and outs of what it's like to be at an auction and things like that. I want to do something similar to that, only on a larger scale here with Barrett-Jackson, the crazy high prices those cars go for, and try and capture the experience of what it's like to be at a Barrett-Jackson auction, because I think it's a really cool experience, and we're going to have a lot of unique opportunities as well while we're there. And so that should be a fun little, you know, weekend trip here. Nothing crazy, just, you know, I'm only going to be out there for like 36 hours or something, but it'll be fun nonetheless. And so definitely stay tuned on social media for, you know, my posts about that, and of course the videos that will follow in the coming weeks. But yeah, so that's it as far as all the updates here, guys. So I'll send it back to me at the news desk for this week's news. Right, for this week's news, the first thing is something that actually came out towards the end of last week, and that is that Toyota of Europe has announced that there's going to be a World Rally Championship-inspired Toyota Yaris. So they're making a hot hatch version of the Toyota Yaris. Again, this is Toyota of Europe, so whether or not we're going to get this is a big if. Hot hatches are a lot hotter over in Europe, of course, so it makes sense for the Europeans to get it. Us, I don't know, but then again, with Toyota's commitment to, you know, making more exciting cars with the upcoming Supra and the 86, which they've already committed to doing a second generation version of in the coming years, and then this would fit in nicely to have a little hot hatch compete with the Fiesta ST. They're saying they already confirmed that in Europe it's going to have 210 horsepower, and it's going to debut at the Geneva International Motor Show in March. So, and they even released a couple pictures of it. No teasers, just, yep, here it is. Here's a few pictures of it, which is very cool. But again, Toyota of Europe. So, if you live in Europe, then good news. If you're looking for another hot hatch option, this will be available, you know, not too far down the road. But for us in America, it's still a big question whether or not we're actually going to get it. But cool to hear that nonetheless. Another thing that was every week, you know, last week I talked about the new Dodge Challenger Demon and how they're going to be doing teasers leading up to the reveal at the New York Auto Show in March. And so this week's teaser for the Demon revealed a couple little interesting tidbits. There is a little teaser video that had an X-ray type thing going on, and what the video revealed is that the car is going to lose 200 pounds over the Hellcat, which is about 4,500 pounds, so it's 4,300. Still not a featherweight, but definitely helps. So this X-ray video, though, it did kind of show that there is no front differential, so it most likely will not be all-wheel drive. It's looking like it's going to be rear-wheel drive, so much like the current Hellcat, but it will be lighter, so that should help it outperform the Hellcat. They also show that it's like stripping things down, and that includes the interior, which means don't be surprised if this car is a stripped-out Hellcat that's lighter, because, it removes stuff like possibly the back seat, or, the air conditioning, radio, kind of like the Shelby GT350R, and you'd have to pay to add all that stuff back in, but then you negate your weight losses. So not sure what it is they're going to be doing with that, but they are saying 200 pounds lost, and I'm sure a lot of that is going to come out of the interior, but still a lot to be seen as far as what they actually end up doing with this new Demon, but very cool to see that. McLaren this past week has teased the successor to the 650S. Now, the first teaser was just the monocoque, which we saw a week or two ago, and that was very promising. They're saying that it's going to be lighter, 40 pounds lighter than the current car's monocoque, so it's 2,828 pounds for just the shell. So what this teaser this week is showing is some of the curves and the exterior styling now, which looks very promising. And you can kind of, it's a close-up shot, but you can kind of see kind of what's going on there with, the taillight being a little thin strip and the slope of the rear roof line and things like that. And what this also highlights is the new active wing this car is going to have, which runs the full length of the full width of the car supposedly, and it will be able to extend, retract, and adjust its angle. So much like, even the McLaren MP412C had a smaller version of this, but the same basic thing where it'll be at different positions for different types of driving, and under heavy braking, this one will also act as an air brake, much like the previous one. So that's great. They say that the maximum generated downforce is over 50% greater than that of the McLaren 650S, and it allows for truly outstanding levels of grip and stability. So, it'll be a better performing car in every way. They always are. And so other things. Now, it's rumored to be called the 720S, which means, of course, it has roughly 720 horsepower, which is good. There also are reports of them working on a new engine for this car, 4-liter twin-turbo V8 engine. Now, the previous one was a 3.8, so, a little bit larger displacement. And they also say that it could be hooked up to some kind of hybrid system to, help propel it. Now, that could be on a higher model or this same model, who knows. They also have worked on a new design for the dihedral doors that go up that'll allow two separate air ducts, one that forces air down from the top of the door to help with the engine cooling, and then there's another one that pulls the air out of the front wheel arch to help with the downforce. So, both are good, and they say they're going to be revealing this new successor to the 650S at the 2017 Geneva Motor Show, again, in March. So, very exciting to see that. Alfa Romeo this past week online here just unveiled the new Alfa Romeo Stelvio First Edition. Now, this is the standard version. The first Stelvio they showed us was the Quadrifoglio version, which is the high-performance 505 horsepower version. This is the standard Stelvio that most people are going to be buying. That's going to be a reasonable price for most people, and they've begun taking orders for it. Now, this First Edition one is a limited edition one that has a lot of popular features that most people will order. But as far as the specs here for the standard Stelvio, right now, it's aside from getting the Quadrifoglio version, the standard, you only get one engine choice. It's a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, does 280 horsepower, the same exact thing in the Giulia. This is essentially a lifted up Giulia. It looks very good, I have to say. Out of all the crossovers out there, I think this is one of the best looking ones currently now. But yeah, 280 horsepower, 8-speed automatic transmission, and all-wheel drive is standard as well here on these. This run from 0 to 62 takes about 5.7 seconds, they say, so still not a slow vehicle. Still performance oriented. Doesn't sound like a lot of horsepower these days, but with that 8-speed, it gets up and goes pretty well. They also gave some details about this all-wheel drive system that's going to be available on the Stelvio. They say that it usually sends all of its torque to the rear axle until the system detects slip. Then it will put some more power up to the front wheels, and it can transfer up to 50% of the power to the front wheel, so it's a 50-50 split. So much like a lot of these other systems, the F-Pace I think has a very similar type of system. Rear-wheel drive bias, which should allow it to feel more sporty and sports car-like than, you know, some of these other crossovers. And so, yeah, sounds like a very good combination there, and hopefully these things sell very well. They haven't announced pricing yet, but hopefully we'll be seeing that very soon. Next, the BMW has given the 2018 4 Series a refresh here for the 2018 model year. So, you know, last year they updated the engines and bumped up the badges, you know, to 430i and 440i. This year they're updating the rest of the car, you know, to match that new engine here for 2018. And so the main changes are the refreshed front and rear. In the front there, you have new, you know, headlights that are now feature LED lighting, and also the rears now feature LEDs as well and look very, very sharp. And other things, you know, they changed the front bumper details a bit. There's standard fog lights that are also LED now. It has the new digital cockpit gauge cluster that I actually showed in the 5 Series and 7 Series that were at Detroit, and now it's making its way to the 4 Series very predictably. They also have, I guess, updated the professional navigation infotainment system. And there's also an inductive phone charging available in the armrest along with Apple CarPlay integration and a Wi-Fi hotspot. And so nice little improvements there. They also are touting this new connected setup that will be using real-time traffic data. It has an app that'll tell you when you're supposed to leave and drive off. I think most maps and things already kind of do that, but that's one thing they're proud of here with the BMW system. Now, one important thing here is it isn't all just cosmetic stuff. They also said that they've improved the dynamics of the 4 Series for 2018 with new suspension setups, most importantly. So they all are going to be receiving stiffer suspension setups and upgraded steering. And so these changes, they say, are going to reduce roll and create more neutral responses at the limit. And they're going to be incorporated into all the suspension options you can get, including the standard one, the M Sport suspension, and the adaptive suspension setup. So, and again, these are all changes for the global version. We'll be getting more details on the US version as well as pricing, you know, hopefully pretty soon. But in the meantime, very promising things, and not too many pictures, but a couple pictures there, and overall it does look pretty good. Some other BMW news is BMW was spied testing the new 6 Series, or what some people are thinking will be possibly called the 8 Series, and it was spied testing in the snow in both coupe and convertible form. And in coupe form, it really almost looks like an i8, or like a less radical version of the i8 in its shape and proportions and things like that. It does look good from what we can tell from the camouflage. It does look fairly far along, so, you know, I would expect a reveal of this either later this year or very early next year at the latest, because it does seem pretty far along, and I'm sure they want to give the Mercedes S-Class coupes some competition as soon as possible. So, yeah, cool to see that. Another interesting thing that was actually there was a reveal video of it that's going to be coming out at the Geneva Motor Show is the Dendrobium, which is this electric hypercar. It's a partnership between Williams F1, so they know what they're doing. This isn't just some, you know, hokey little thing, and Vada Electrics, which I guess is another, you know, very acclaimed electric company. And so they're going to be making this new hypercar. They're saying it's going to have like 1,500 horsepower, do 0 to 60 in like 2.6 seconds, which these days with Tesla and stuff doesn't sound all that impressive, sadly. But, you know, looks pretty crazy here from this little teaser video, which, by the way, the teaser video was so low resolution that I'm sorry that the screen caps don't look very good. But, yeah, the video was just very low resolution, so that's the best we could do here. But, yeah, so we'll be seeing more of that here at the Geneva Motor Show in the spring here in March. But very interesting design nonetheless. And the last story this week is an interesting announcement from Mazda, and that is that their next generation Skyactiv engines are going to get rid of spark plugs, and they're going to go high compression, kind of like a diesel engine. So I'm going to read out a little bit of the technical details here of it. It's called Homogeneous Charge Compression Ignition, HCCI, which again, it produces diesel-like fuel efficiency with a gasoline, normal engine. So Mazda's claiming that they've figured out how to make this work, and that it's going to have 30% better fuel economy, and at the same time reducing exhaust emissions emissions. That's their claim. Now, it's important to note that other car companies in the past have been trying to get this to work for a long time, including GM, Hyundai, and I think a couple others, and none of them were actually able to bring it to market in a cost-effective package. So this is a very big deal if Mazda has cracked the code or figured out how to do this affordably, and it's very commendable too. I really have to take my hat off to Mazda for continuing to pursue advancements in gasoline engines, with fuel economy, being ever so high or pushed up, and everyone just going to electric and just giving up on the gasoline engine. It's very exciting that Mazda is still trying to pioneer new techniques to meet these crazy high fuel economy standards and keep the normal gasoline engine around. So they're saying that this engine, if it does in fact come to market, they're planning on putting it under the hood of the next-gen Mazda 3, which is supposed to be arriving next year in 2018, and it'll also make its way into other vehicles, of course, much like the other Skyactiv stuff did. But yeah, it gets rid of the spark plugs. It uses the air-fuel mixture with pressure to ignite it, and so now the normal Skyactiv engines already have very high compression ratios, 14:1. To put that into reference, the Mustang, everyone was impressed with the 2018s here that was announced this past week. They're going from 11:1 compression ratio to 12:1, I believe now, which is pretty high on its own. So Mazda's already at 14:1, 14:1, I should say. Now this new compression ratio, if they use this HCCI technology, the compression is going to be 18:1, which is very high and pretty crazy. So we'll have to see. I mean, there's a lot of problems with detonation, all kinds of unintended things with these. So hopefully they actually have figured out how to make it work. That'd be awesome. And so yeah, very cool to see Mazda pioneering that. But yes, that's it for all the news this week, guys. So send it back to me in the car. All right, so I'll leave you guys with a quick little acceleration here, some traffic, but like I always do. Yeah, that's it. See, it's so much power already that I can't even use it, in daily driving that often. It is really plenty, and I still just love it. It makes me giggle every time I accelerate still. It's just so much fun. So anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you next week. Take care.